folks are in the Law, Public Safety, Corrections, and Security breakout room. If you are a student or a non-presenter, you can go ahead and make sure that you're muted and that your screen is off.
We have to use these. We have to take those out? Yeah. And then what?
All right. So if you're not a presenter, go ahead and make sure that you're muted and your screen is off. You are in the Law, Public Safety, Corrections, and Security breakout room. If you're here to listen to presenters, please use the chat to ask questions, and that'll keep it so that I can monitor and make sure your questions get asked. And we're actually going to start in 1 or 2 minutes. And what I'll be doing is asking presenters to introduce themselves. And then after we get through introductions, we'll go right to questions and start some conversations about what it's like to work in this career field and how these folks got to where they're at. Okay, so we'll get started. Again, my name's Nathan Hickey, and I'm a Gear Up counselor in Rutland County. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to be a moderator for this breakout room. It's an opportunity for you folks to get to know our presenters, the fields they're in, and ask them questions about the work they do. And what I'm going to do is ask presenters to introduce themselves one at a time. And if folks are ready, presenters, make sure you unmute yourself as you get started with speaking. But we'll go ahead and we'll start with Ms. Sweet.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robyn Sweet. I'm a registered paralegal here in Rutland County. I work for Cleary, Shahi, and Aicher. We are a civil litigation law firm.
Great, welcome. Thank you so much. Ms. Burton. Ms. Burton, we're gonna have to, can you unmute yourself for me? Not yet. Perhaps the headphones. We'll go with Officer Whipple and then come back to you.
Cool.
See if we get it fixed.
We'll see if my microphone works. Can you hear me?
Good to go.
Okay, cool. Jeff Whipple, I'm the Vermont State Game Warden with the Vermont Warden Service. I'm the warden for most of Orange County here in Vermont. I've been a warden for about 12 years and I'm excited to be here and thanks for having me.
Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. Ms. Burton?
Hey, does that work?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Lisa Burton, and I'm a captain with Castine Fire and Rescue in Castine, Maine, and I've been with the department about 10 years.
Great. Welcome aboard. Thank you, folks, for being here. I don't see any questions in the chat for folks yet, so I do have some questions that came about prior to this presentation, I should say, and I'll go ahead and start with them. The first question I saw that came out is a student that wants to become a federal agent, asking about what steps they should take in high school. So if you folks could talk about what they should be thinking about in regards to preparing for a position in public service in relation to your field, that would be great. And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Ms. Sweet, if we could.
So my firm is not in the public service in the manner of like a police officer or a fire warden. We do litigation. So we're more of a firm. So if you were going to be sued, your insurance agency would call us to defend you. But looking at the legal profession a little bit more broadly, if you're interested in becoming an attorney or a paralegal and you're in high school now, you're going to want to start to think about taking writing classes, English, criminal justice type courses, things of that nature. I don't think I'm really answering this well, Nathan.
No, you're doing a great job. Okay, great. Thank you. And you can always add to it when you come back. Officer Whipple?
Sure. So yeah, a lot of that's a great point with looking into classes that you want to take. So also, if you're looking at a public service, whether it be police or fire service or something like that, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities out there where you can do like, so I'll speak specifically kind of towards the warden service. You can go out like stocking fish, cleaning up fishing accesses, things like that. And then gearing towards, as you're leaving high school, looking at those colleges that are going to specialize in that. Federal agent wise, so if you want to go federal agent, there's so many different branches, but you could say Border Patrol, for example. If you wanted to go Border Patrol, so the big thing there is bilingual. So definitely learn Spanish. That'll put you ahead. And then there's military service too. So you could join either out of high school, during college, after college. That's just a resume builder, totally. So yeah, kind of that was the broadest way I could answer it, but.
Great. Ms. Burton, do you have anything to add with that?
I do actually. I agree absolutely on the volunteering part because there are a lot of towns that have volunteers. I know Vermont has and Maine has, other states have volunteer junior programs for fire service. So that takes in the teenage years where people can get started early, and it gets them a much better idea of what different options there are in the fire service other than just being a firefighter. I would recommend going to your firehouse and talking to people about what the jobs that their local department does. There's also like community risk reduction or public information or fire inspector, different things that would require totally different backgrounds on that. And then for fire service, I would also recommend at least basic level medical training, emergency response, and then keep up with your physical fitness, because that's definitely a thing you're going to need start to finish. Thanks.
Awesome. Having a little experience in the military and law enforcement myself, I just want to add, staying out of trouble is definitely something to consider if you're looking to get into this field. And military service, it depends on the person, in my opinion. If you go into the military, you can certainly specialize in an area that you're interested in. If it's law enforcement, you can look at that. If you're interested in legal, there's opportunities in the military for that as well. I have some questions that came through on the chat. One was asking about whether or not anyone here is a detective. I'm not sure that anybody has had that experience. I know that you folks probably worked with them, but would somebody like to jump in and connect a little bit about your relationships with anybody in the detective field in regards to what you do?
I can start, Nate. So we as game wardens, we kind of do our own CSI work. So we have training in wildlife crime detection. That's our specialty. So we are our own detectives, but we work closely with BCI out of the state police. So I know several detectives and help them out on lots of things. And like what you were saying, Nate, too, so to be a detective, if you get into police work, it's one of those branches for a special unit like in the military. So yeah, getting into police work and then branching into the detective side of things is definitely unique, and it's a lot of fun to work those CSI and to collect DNA and tire tracks and fingerprints and things. But yeah.
Great. Ms. Sweet?
So I work with private detectives. Rarely do I need to work with a police detective, but rather we will hire detectives to go out and investigate and give us a secondary opinion of what happened. And when we do have to work with detectives, it's really just an advancement of what we can do. So it's mostly getting the details of any kind of given incident.
Great. Ms. Burton, do you have anything for that?
I do. We're quite like the warden service. In the fire service, we have state fire marshals and fire investigators, and they do their own investigations. A lot of times they work directly with the state police, because a lot of times whatever caused the fire might have been intentional, which creates its own crime. And so the state fire marshal's office is not prosecuting people, but all that information goes to law enforcement for the state. So they work together on that. Definitely that's a position that is traditionally held by people who've had a good number of years in the fire service and arson training, and then they'll go from there.
That's great. Thank you, folks, for tackling that question. One of the next questions I have here is I have an individual interested in paralegal, wondering what requirements are needed for that particular field. And I'm gravitating to Ms. Sweet for that one.
So the paralegal studies, it really depends on what state you go into. As a Vermont paralegal, I'm going to kind of focus on that. So Vermont does not require that you have any specialized training to be considered a paralegal, just rather that an attorney states that you are so. However, there are paralegal courses, certifications. I hold 2 registered credentials. They're both through the National Federation of Paralegals. And one is my RP, which is the PACE, which is the Advanced Paralegal designation. And then there's the CRP, which is the core, which is your basic entry level. In order to obtain those, for the RP, you do need to have an associate's degree plus years of experience, whereas the CRP, you need to have years of experience and a high school diploma or GED as the equivalent. There are lots of entry-level positions. Most paralegals that I know started off as, something as simple as the receptionist for a law firm and worked their way into a legal secretary position, and then a legal assistant, and then the paralegal profession.
Great, thank you. Officer Whipple and Ms. Burton, perhaps an understanding of statutes or whatnot in your field, or do you have anything to add particular to requirements?
Yeah, I don't. I'm all set, Nate.
Okay, great.
I actually do. I actually did paralegal training myself for that reason. So that was something I did back when I was in Virginia, to go with a business degree that I had, which was different from where I am now. But I've used the paralegal education and business in the fire service. So I think a lot of skills are transferable from one to another, or you can build from one to the other. So that's something I did almost 20 years ago, and it is a lot of those little state details that get lost if you don't know how to chase them down. So that's how I use it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, folks. The next question is regarding what attracted you to public service. And I'm going to go ahead and start right back with, oh my gosh, we'll go with Officer Whipple on this one. We'll start there.
Yeah, so what attracted me to public service, I joined my volunteer fire department as a junior firefighter when I was 15, I think. So that's what started my public service. And then I continued on the volunteer fire department all the way through high school. And then when I'd come home from college, I'd help out when I could. But my attraction to public service, I guess, would be my willingness to help, or I don't know how to word that. I enjoy helping people, and I really enjoy helping animals. So my thought was, what can I do to protect natural resources and animals and people, but still work outside? And the game warden job was the perfect fit for me. So that's how I originally got into it. I do lots of other things too for public service. So I do. I'm a big volunteer for a food shelf program, so that helps out on the other side. I'm still a volunteer fireman in our local town, but yeah, the willingness to help people and animals and protect our natural resources here in Vermont is what essentially attracted me. So,
Thank you. Ms. Burton?
Definitely the same for me. We're from a smaller community, so there's a lot of community support and community volunteering in different areas, and that's really how I got started as well. There was just a need. Someone actually called and said, hey, can you help us up? You grew up here, you knew pretty much everybody, maybe you can help dispatch, and that's how I got started and gone from there.
Ms. Sweet?
So I always knew that I wanted to be in the law office of one kind or another. So I actually wanted to be a family law attorney and help give a voice to children who were in foster care. So that's where I started off. I made choices throughout my life that actually headed me down the path of starting a family first. And then I came back around to being a legal assistant at a law firm and working my way into this paralegal profession. So our family is big into public service. I have 2 children who are volunteer firefighters, and my husband's a volunteer firefighter. We are foster parents, so we, are big in our community. So while I work in the private sector, I still feel very connected to the public service. So I guess it's really just that I just always knew that this is where I wanted to be.
Excellent. Thank you, folks. I think that answers the next question that came through. I have a question again from somebody who is interested in how to work with people in paralegal. And the question is, would you just connect? So she has a master's in counseling and wants to know how to work with paralegal. Do they just connect with the law firms? How do you collaborate with law firms if you're a counselor?
So if she's wanting to make the transition from counselor to paralegal, then I would advise that she start reaching out to law firms and seeing, what they have, because she would most likely be an entry-level position unless there's our law firm. We do a lot of medical records reviews. So if she has any kind of nursing with that counselor training, then she may be an asset to a firm that's smaller and maybe doesn't have somebody yet who can do that in-house summarization. But if she's looking to work with a law firm, at least in my limited understanding of like what our firm does, I don't really know how to connect the two.
So I'll just touch base. Does anybody else want to tackle that question as well? We'll leave it at that. Just to touch base on the connection between the military and this field, I'll just say that speaking from my experience in the military, you absolutely can choose a field in the military that helps support a career that you want to get involved with outside of the military when you finish. In fact, you can utilize what's called the GI Bill, which is money set aside to help veterans or folks that are active duty go to school and work on getting certificates or college classes or degrees when you have that time while you're in the military. And you can certainly go to the websites of each military branch and you can explore the different fields, or MOS, which are the mission specialties that folks get involved with, so that you can choose what field you want to get into. And that's anything from being a chef to working with supply to psychology, medical field, law enforcement. All of those things, law, are available in the military. So definitely explore those sites, or even contact a recruiter and ask those questions as well. Let me see if there's any other questions I'm missing in here. Trying to navigate the chat as well. Let's see, I see one, and hopefully I didn't miss any. I'll go back through. How long do you have to be in your job before you have to retire? Great question. And we can start with Ms. Burton on that.
So I guess that's a great big, it depends. Traditionally, I think that most people stay in about 25 years. So for the fire service, a lot of people start right at 18 or 20. So by the time they're 45 or 50, they're actually looking for a different career. They're transitioning to something else. And I don't think that that's a rule, but that's the way I kind of generally runs where we are.
Ms. Sweet?
So we don't really have a length of service. It's more of when you turn a certain age. So if you start in the profession, in theory, you can retire when you're 65. I have yet to meet an attorney who retires at 65. So, and a lot of the paralegals will usually be younger than the attorney that they're working with, and will then continue on even after. So in our firm, we have an attorney who is approaching 80 and his paralegal is 70, and they are not yet discussing what their retirement plan is, although everyone around them is.
Officer Whipple, same question, but two parts. After you get through the retirement aspect of it, can you connect about perhaps the difference between working the police or game warden? The question is about being an Alaskan state trooper and whether or not it would be like a police or game warden. So perhaps you can talk about that aspect of the work you do, please.
Sure. So let's start with the retirement one first. So our department, and also state law enforcement, is mandatory retirement at age 55. So it doesn't matter if you've got 10 years in or 30. At 55, we have to retire. I'm on track to retire when I turn 50 because I started this job young. I got hired when I was 22. So I'll have enough time, and we can collect our pension at age 50. So, and it's full pension after 20 years for us. And our retirement is, I think we're at 60% now, 60% of our highest paid 3 years average. So they average your highest paid 3 years and you get 60% of that is what your retirement is. Second question. So I saw that in the chat. I was kind of connecting that. So Alaska, Oregon, a few other states have their game wardens are under the state police. So they have, they do game warden work, but they're wildlife troopers essentially. That means that they basically do what we do, but just get paid by a different agency. So those states have gone through consolidation where they consolidated many law enforcement agencies and moved them under one umbrella. So there's positives and negatives to that for sure. We're actually, well, that's another topic. But what do we do? So as I think this is where some of the question is. So as state law enforcement officers, we do anything that any other state law enforcement officer can do, or any other law enforcement. So when we go to the academy, we're such a small state that we don't have a warden specific academy. So we go with all the VSP, so all the state troopers, all the sheriffs, and all the municipal cops. So we all go to the same academy. It's 4 months. And then we, after we graduate, we learn how to be cops in the academy. And then we learn how to be game wardens after. So on our field training period, we have the longest field training of any law enforcement agency in the state. We actually keep our trainees on the field training time for 8 months. So you don't get to get released into your own district until the end of your training time, which is 8 months long. So we actually, including the academy and post basic, we train our candidates for over a full year. But we can do anything that a state trooper can do, we can do. We can stop speeders. We go to domestic violence cases. We go to all sorts of different things. We're a small state, so we help out our other law enforcement, and as do they for us. So yeah, we enforce all of the laws plus all the fish and game laws too. So it's quite a unique job, I'll say, but it's a lot of fun.
Great, and I hope to ask some questions about that fun in a little bit. I have a question here regarding education for each of you, and what you did to get where you're at. So I'm going to start with Ms. Sweet. If you could talk about what kind of education you need for your position, please.
So as I stated before, you can become a paralegal with just a high school diploma, as I did. And then I received my CRP through years of experience. I wanted more, so I returned to college, finished my associates, which gave me fulfilled the requirements to sit for the RP exam. And then this coming June, I will have finished my bachelor's. So Vermont, so if you're looking to be an attorney, Vermont is one of the few states that does not require that you attend law school. So you can have a bachelor's degree and sit for the law study program, which is 4 years of clerkships with different types of attorneys in different fields. And there's paper requirements and hourly requirements and things like that. But that you can do that to fulfill the requirements to sit for the bar exam instead of attending law school.
Great. Ms. Burton.
Yeah, so for fire service, most people will start going to fire academy, which might be several weeks for a local municipal academy, or some of the areas that have large volunteers do kind of weekends every weekend for 4 months or something like that, which is how we do it in my area. And then once they're hired onto a department, often they will move forward to get their associate's degree in fire science. That's just a great background to have for understanding what it is you're actually working in and for. And then I think moving forward, I did a degree in emergency management and management of fire and emergency services, which is something that would not necessarily be, I'm starting out in the career type of job, but as you move up and the longer you're in and the more you move away from being on the trucks and up into the offices, there's more management, there's more leadership, and there's more, writing grants for the town, different things like that. So it becomes more of a business job if you let it, or if you want to go that way. So that would be a good background to have.
Great, thank you. Officer Whipple?
Yeah, so we have, so our requirements, our prereqs are, you have to have 2 years, well, you got to hit one of the three. So you have to have either 2 years prior military on active duty, 2 years law enforcement active duty, or 60 college credits in an outdoor related field. So that can be anything from forestry management to wildlife biology to also in criminal justice degree counts for us too. So 60 college credits, that's about, I don't know, probably 5 semesters maybe. Or if you're really ambitious, you could do it in 2 years, I would imagine. And then, so what did I do? So I have a bachelor's degree in wildlife biology, and not a full minor in wildlife law enforcement too. So yeah, that was my path. We also do a credit for outdoor work experience, so we can make prior outdoor work jobs into the college credit thing. So if you worked as a forester, or you worked as a logger, or you worked as a wildlife tech or something like that, then that time would count towards being able to apply for us.
Excellent, thank you. The next question I'm going to ask you folks is about using creativity in your work. So I'll give you an opportunity to maybe share an experience that you've had and how you use creativity to get through those experiences. And if folks have other questions, I don't think I missed anything, but it's very possible. If you want to put them back up in your chat, that would be great. But we'll go ahead and we'll start with Ms. Burton. If you could talk to us a little bit about how you use creativity in your work, please.
Well, that's interesting. I think it's important for us in the fire service, really, every call is different. So when you get to where you are and what you have to do, you have got to think about what your end goal is. And a lot of times there's a lot of different ways to get there. So A, looking at things differently, and B, listening to the people that are working with you. You can combine your ideas and your creativity. Sometimes you have got to come up with ideas that, you know, we need to go through this fieldstone cement wall for a basement. We have to get through there. There's a lot of ways to do that. And sometimes you do have to get creative. You have to use tools that you have for one thing that maybe you want to use a different way. So certainly that was one thing that we did have to go through a wall one time. And it was creating a team to do that. It was creating a slide to move large rocks out of vinyl siding that we had taken off the side of the house. So it was a whole combination of things. And that was nothing that was written down in any textbook anywhere, but it was like, here's our end goal. Here's the tools and the resources and the people that we have now. Figure it out. And I think a lot of the fire service, a lot of the public safety jobs are like that, because there's just no way to write down everything that could possibly happen and learn all about it. So you have got to be creative and understand that's coming on every call.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Ms. Sweet.
So my job is mostly fact-based. I don't usually get real creative. But when I do, it's usually like the attorney will ask me to map out the incident location. So we had a case with an ATV accident in the woods. So I got to get on the back of an ATV and map out the feet and the miles and all of that, and then come back to the office and use a computer software to like drop trees, and here's where the path was, which is not something I normally get to do. So it's probably something Officer Whipple and Ms. Burton get to do, but I don't get to make accident reconstructions, and that was kind of fun.
Nice, thank you. Officer Whipple.
Yeah, so how do we use creativity? Just like Ms. Burton said, it's there's nothing in the manual. We have some certain tools and skills and techniques that we get to use depending on the case. Like, I'm just thinking about, when did I use creativity? It's like, when have we not as game wardens, just because it's such a unique job. And I think the things that really come to play are if we have a suspect who is really good. When sometimes we get people that maybe are first-time deer poachers, rare, but sometimes we get somebody who has been doing this for a long time and they're really good. And so that makes it's kind of like the cat and mouse game, and I really enjoy it, where it's you've got to really change up your tactics to catch that person that is really good, because they know your game, and you try and get into theirs. So and the other big thing that we probably have to get really creative on is search and rescue. So when there is somebody's life that's at stake, we got to think on the fly and try and get in to find that person. They might be 200 feet from the road, or they might be 17 miles on the backside of a ski mountain and it's 26 below zero. And how are we going to get that person out? First of all, how are we going to find them, and then get them out of the woods safely, and then to medical treatment. So yeah, creativity is it's a daily part for us, definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Nate, can I circle back on that? One more thing I was thinking of is we absolutely have to be creative in our training, because we don't have a lot of money. No department that I know has a lot of money or extra people or anything like that. So we use a lot of creativity in creating props for things that can look like other things. Like when we do search and rescue in a building, we may not have a building to walk through or crawl through or smoke out or whatever. So we're going to take wooden pallets and create hallways, and we can use that in one of our bays of our station, and that we can smoke out and create a different hallway to a search and rescue or down firefighter. And then with that, we can change it up so that people aren't like, oh, you go in, you go right, you go left, you get the person and come back out. So we can keep changing it without costing anything. And for us, that's really important, to be creative in our training. And another thing we do is we'll do radio games. Just it's very simple to think that you're saying something clearly and people on the other end are like, I have no idea what it is that you're talking about. So we'll do that just to show that, or we'll take something simple like give someone a Lego. Here's a Lego building and it's built out of these colors in this shape. I need you to tell the other team what it is and how to build it, and let them come back with what that they've done, just to better illustrate what it is you're trying to teach them, but also something that we really just call up one of the members and say, can bring your son's Legos, we're going to do radio tonight. It doesn't cost anything, and that's how we use creativity too to get our training done.
That's awesome. Very important and really cool activity to use. So we have 15 minutes. I have a question in the chat I'm going to get to about hours in a day, but if you folks could think about how the work you do makes a difference in the community and how the next generation can prepare, I'm going to go ahead and ask the next question in chat, which is, how many hours do you work a day? And Ms. Burton, you're on my screen, so I'll go ahead and start with you on that.
Okay, that's easy. So in our area, most departments are 24 hours on and then 48 hours off. So that's the regular standard rotation. So that would allow you to have 2 days off, so to speak, but many departments have callback policies because they have a low number of firefighters. They try and keep that balanced for the budget. So you could be potentially called back for something, but that's the general schedule. Go in, stay at the station, and then home for 2 days.
Officer Whipple?
I like so it's how many hours do we work in the day? How many hours do we get paid for? And how many hours do we work, right? So as game wardens, we work 9.25 hours a day. That's what we're required to do. But the fun part is we set our own schedule. So we don't work a set schedule. So if like some law enforcement works 10 hours on, and then, or they do 12-hour shifts, it varies, but we can pick when we want to work. So that's a wonderful perk for this job, because it allows you to split your shift. You can do, like, if you have kids that play sports, you could go to their soccer game and sign off and then come back and finish out your shift. But our job literally changes when the seasons change. So there's things we do, like now we're doing a lot of nighttime work, and maybe in March there's nothing really going on at night. So we are we're able to work pretty much whenever we want, wherever we want. So yeah, I think so. 9.25 hours a day, and then our days off. So you're guaranteed 2 days off every week. We're also on call 24/7. So not saying that you have to stay home. You certainly can go on vacation, but we're called in for all sorts of different things, violations or injured animals and things. So yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Sweet, two-part question. If you could talk a little bit about the hours you work in a day, and then slide into the question about how does your work make a difference in the community, and how can the next generation join the workforce and make a difference on the job today, please?
Okay, so my job is Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And in theory, I get an hour for lunch. If it is a trial season, then I could be at the office until 11 o'clock at night, getting trial exhibits ready and making sure everything is there. That's pretty much it. I do get 2 weeks vacation to do as I would like, where also in theory, the office will not call you. But yeah, it's a pretty regular, weekends off, most holidays. For the most part, most law firms, if the court is closed, then the office is closed. So there's that. The second part of what do we do that benefits the firm that I work for, I don't think anybody would really see personally the benefits, except we are a civil defense firm. So when you see those warnings on things, it's likely due to a civil suit that was brought that is now mandatory that consumers be warned of something. So, same kind of thing. We do a lot of ski injury defense work. So you look at the back of your ski pass, that language, that's usually something that, I've read through and reviewed with the attorney, that kind of stuff.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Burton.
So for our community, definitely in our area, the fire department is obviously fire response, but we are also the only medical response. So we don't have an ambulance, we don't have a hospital. So we are the first line for medical. And then we have a program called Community Paramedicine. And we have a lot of older people in our community, and our paramedics or EMTs from our fire department take part in that. And what we do is go into people's homes once a week, and we'll have a visit. We'll check on their medications. We'll, as a safety officer, one of the things I do is go through and make sure that, especially in older people's homes, sometimes the maintenance isn't done as well. So we'll make note for the ambulance crews that may come to support us. You're going to want to use the side door. You're going to want to not come in certain areas. So we'll do a safety check for all those people as well. So we try and do response, but we also try and do support ahead. So these will be people that would not be able to get out to the clinic once a week to get an appointment. That would just not be something that they could do. So it helps them stay in their home a little bit longer. And I think it helps keep the sense of community that we all share in support of these people, and that we all, we know them, they know us. So I think that's a really important part of it, what we do.
Thank you so much. Officer Whipple.
What was the full question again? I have a response. I just want to make sure I'm hitting it right.
No problem. So the question is, how does your work make a difference in the community?
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, and how would the next generation entering the workforce make a difference on the job?
Okay, so first part, it's a proven fact that if poachers aren't regulated, then wildlife populations decline. So if we didn't have game wardens, we wouldn't have huntable or enjoyable, consumable wildlife. So, and not just things that we hunt. So we protect, eagles and other endangered species. So without humans enforcing the Fish and Wildlife laws, then people would just go around and kill whatever they wanted, and it would just be a Wild West, and that's not okay. So that's kind of our number one. And then we're also public servants and public safety too. So we do, you know, we respond to those calls that when 911 gets called and there's something bad happening, then we're another tool that we can assist with. How would people, so the next generation of workforce, we're looking for highly motivated candidates that work, or I'm not sure how to word it, folks that have initiative, because we work alone a lot and we work on cases that we have to dig up, but we also respond to complaints too. So we're looking for highly motivated individuals who can work alone, who can go out and detect violations. And you don't have to have, we don't rule out, you know, you don't have to grow up hunting and fishing, or, you know, you don't have to grow up loving firearms or something like that. So we look for the candidate. We'll teach you how to be a game warden, but it's more of that personality, that go-getter, that drive, that is what we're looking for. And kind of, you know, just staying out of trouble. One mistake when you're 18, even a minor mistake, could rule you out of a law enforcement occupation. It's the background checks are very, very intense with us. And you will go through a polygraph for most law enforcement in Vermont. You will be put through a polygraph test, and they will dig up everything that happened. So if you're in that decision of right and wrong, think about, you know, maybe, wow, this seems fun to do this illegal activity, but that could affect your rest of your life or something small. So it's really staying out of trouble is the best thing you can do, and getting involved in your community. That's how you prepare for a career in public service, definitely.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on that real quickly, just to say absolutely on the getting involved in your community. And then for the fire service is a little bit different. We definitely look for go-getters, but it's definitely collaborative. It's 2 people in, 2 out. You almost never do anything by yourself. If you're by yourself, it's generally something's not gone right. So we're really looking for people that are great on teamwork. But as a firefighter, we have a real privilege to go into people's houses. We don't have to get warrants. We're in and out of people's houses. They call us. We can have 12 people walk in and out and that sort of thing. And we cannot have a blemish on our record of people saying, hey, every time B shift goes somewhere, something's missing or something like that. So honesty and integrity is super important. And what I'll say as a parent and a firefighter is watch your social media posts, because those come back to haunt you. Absolutely, they do. And people will find them or screenshot them. You can try and get rid of them, but it doesn't always work. So now's the time to pay attention to that sort of thing if you're looking for any of these careers that we're talking about today.
So I'm going to chime right in and say that I am paid to find those Facebook posts that you thought you took down. That is one of the things that I love doing, and I will have my kid test it. She's like, well, I took that down, you can't find it. And I will show her where it is. Because when you post it to the web, it is there forever. There is no taking it back. So before you think that you want to post that picture of whatever it is, really think that through. Because in the legal profession, not only as an officer or a firefighter, but even my position, in order to sit for my 2 exams, my credentials, I had to pass a background check and show that I had no criminal records. I am held to we are all held to a higher ethical standard than, you know, some others, because the ethical line and the illegal line are 2 different lines.
Those are great points made by all of you. We are coming to the last 3 minutes and we're going to conclude. I want to take the time. First, I want to say thank you to all the students, parents, guardians, counselors, whatever you are, for being here and being a part of this presentation and what it's like in this career field. And I want to thank our presenters very much for being a part of this and putting yourselves out there for these folks to learn about the work that you do. In the chat, you'll see about 4 comments up. There's the vsac.org/Vermont-Career Connect is a spot where you can go see a recording of all the breakout presentations and folks that took time out of their days to be here and talk about the work they do. And I'm grateful for that. And I think on behalf of everybody here, VSAC, Vermont, we appreciate the work and service you do for the community. Thank you for that. Stay safe and carry on. Let me just check my notes and make sure I'm not missing anything I need to do at the tail end of this. Other than in order to leave, you can click on the leave room button on the bottom right-hand corner. That's how you would leave the meeting, and you are welcome to do that at this point, because then we're all done. This concludes it. Thank you so much.